Click here to go live. All right, let's go live. Going live. You're live. Oh, that was quick. I went live very quickly. Hello, everyone. Welcome to the show. Well, yeah. For a moment, I was surprised by just how quickly it went live. I hit the go live button. It just went, you're live. And I'm like, oh, okay. Normally that takes about 10 seconds, you know, just to go live. But there it is. Hello, Paige. Hello, Slink. Hello, everyone else. How's it all going? Caradog is muted. Oh, are you? Say something? No, stop that. Oh, yeah, no, the stream can't hear you. Why can't the stream hear you? The audio's... Oh, I know why. I know why that's happened. Yeah, okay. Right, there you go. Caradog will be audible again. I unplugged and replugged all... well, this week I rearranged this desk and I moved the computer, so all of the USB things, all of their microphones, cameras, and everything have all been plugged into different USB ports. So OBS is just like, well, I guess you're back to defaults now. Thanks. So that's a thing. So yes, Chris Kingan with the regular $10. Thank you very much. Congrats on 100,000. Well deserved, Graham. Here's to the next 100,000. You should get Caradog a YouTube plaque as well. Well, thank you very much. There will only be one, I believe. However, yes, big thank you. I've got. I'm having a polite cuppa, and then I have a celebratory cider that I'm going to crack open and just relax with.
Although technically for maximum monetization, you have to wait until minute 16 of the stream.
Probably, yeah. And if anyone asks, it's lemon squash. So yeah, I'm gonna play that game.
It's fine. You just pour it into your mug.
I'm not drinking cider from a mug. That's disgusting.
Oh,
just no.
I did that last stream.
Did you?
Or the stream before?
I don't know. Anyway.
I just had it off the side and it was just like...
Oh, yes, and yes, it's my One Punch Man. One Punch! Okay. But yes, anyway. You can buy additional plaques. Oh, can you? Oh, that's interesting. To be honest, I didn't even know what I needed to do to get the silver play button until last night. I was chatting to a friend about it. And I was just like, I don't know what I've got to do. I assumed I had to fill out a form, but apparently, when the time is right, just when I go into YouTube Studio, there'll just be a banner saying, "Well done on 100,000. Click here to get your plaque," kind of thing. So I'm just waiting for that to appear. It has not appeared yet, but I'm guessing that there's a cooling off period of a couple of days while they make sure that the number has actually settled and stuff like that and validate it. But
and make sure that you haven't just bought 50,000 subscribers.
Basically that, yeah. So I'm not expecting it to appear this week, and even then it'll take another couple of weeks to actually get delivered and stuff. So it's going to be a while before you guys see it. Yeah. Although that much being said, it's going to be a couple of weeks before the 100,000 subscriber video, because there's a couple of bits that are just not quite ready in the shop. And I want to get the shop to a certain degree, certain point. Well, lights and counters, basically, both of which are in the works and are scheduled. But I want the lights and the counters done before I shoot the 100,000 subscriber special. But on the other hand, if I wait a week and then I can actually get the play button in time for that, I might delay it a little bit longer just so I can say, here's my silver play button, and just be like, yeah, silver play button, cool. So yes. LM, are you reading the comments? Mostly. They move quickly. Yes, I do when I can.
When someone was saying, oh, you should get me one, I was half thinking they were saying, now you should start a second channel.
Yeah.
Give all the channels.
Yeah.
Suddenly do an LTT media group.
Gross.
It's fine. We only have 19 channels.
Yeah. I mean, it kind of makes sense for them. But yeah,
absolutely.
I do. Well, I mean, I
didn't realize. Sorry, they plan on releasing. I think it was 9 videos a week
across all the channels.
10 videos a week across all of the channels, or something like that. It's just like, oh, yeah, that's a lot of content. That's
Yeah.
a lot of content.
Oh, that didn't work. Oh, set. I'm fiddling with something. It depends on what you're doing as to whether that's useful or not. Because, like, initially I was like, sort of, I will subscribe to all of their content because I like them. However, I have to admit there are a couple of the channels. There we go. I'm flipping because of the camera arrangement. There are a couple of the channels where I'm just
Oh
like,
my
yeah,
god.
this doesn't feel like it applies to me. So yeah. But yeah, I do. Although I am considering making a second channel for random stuff now and then that I want to put in. But yes. However, I need to roll back a little bit because there's been a couple of
Adamant cars.
Adamant cars. Oh no, no, absolutely not. Adam Sieferman, I hope I'm pronouncing your name correctly. Thank you again for answering my question the other week. I appreciate it more than you know. Also ordered the Pinesil and can't wait to play with it. Thank you very much for the $5, Adam. Greatly appreciated. And I hope you have a good time. I hope you get on well with the Pinesil. I think it's a great soldering iron, and I hope you have a good time getting started with that.
Yeah, just a comment on that. Pine64 said they expect stock on the 31st.
31st of March. Oh, yeah, so yeah, a couple of days.
In like
Pinesil will be back in
4 days'
stock.
time. Yeah.
Yep. Great, brilliant starter soldering iron. Absolutely brilliant starter soldering iron. And Spud Nugget with the £50. Congrats on 100k. My dude, thank you very much. You didn't need to, but I greatly appreciate you, man. Yeah, big ups to Spud Nugget. He's a regular in the Discord. Greatly appreciate you, dude. Thank you very much.
Don't worry, you know what you can do for 100,000. It just involves 3070s.
Oh no. Yeah. Yes. This
The
is
shop
true.
address is available on the website.
This is true. This is true. We'll find out. I am at square one with my graphics card situation. I had a whole bunch of orders lined up last week, and pretty much all of them are just dead in the water at the moment. So, but whatever.
Yeah. I'm really upset that the orders I placed with people who said in stock, they didn't even have any stock. Not that the stock sold out, they literally didn't have stock.
I'm not really upset or anything, just because I half expected that anyway. Although I agree that it's awful, because I think both of us placed orders in the same locations trying our luck. And both of them were a bust, and both of them ended up being like, it just turned, both of them, where we placed orders, it turned out that they basically just never had them in the first place. They just thought they could get them. And yeah, I think we kind of knew that it probably wasn't going to be real, but it doesn't stop it from being frustrating that someone said, oh yes, we're selling these, despite the fact that they didn't actually have any on hand. And it's just like, you idiots. But
that's the thing that was annoying. That they thought that was acceptable. The fact they thought that was acceptable.
yeah, although hopefully the ball ache that they went through to have to cancel all of those orders will teach them a lesson in selling things they don't have.
I hope so.
Yeah,
But yeah,
because I'd imagine that they've probably had a lot of hassle from people who placed orders and were making angry phone calls to them. So
I made sure to make the point abundantly clear that I was like, no, I actually have a screenshot of your website saying in stock.
yeah,
Don't try and fob me off with this.
yeah. I mean, I kind of as soon as when I spoke to one of the dudes, he literally said, I'll be honest with you, there are no graphics cards. And at that point, I was just like, I'm not surprised. Just cancel the order and make sure my card doesn't get charged. Like, you know, I was trying my luck. I knew it was too good to be true. Whatever, just cancel the order. I don't care. But yeah, it's not on though. You're right. It's not on.
Yeah, it's more the fact that they're willing to do that was the issue I have, not the fact that there was this minor inconvenience for a product I don't need.
Yeah.
If
Well,
that makes sense.
part of me suspects that they didn't realize the can of worms that they were opening. And of course, but on the
Given
other
the
hand,
size of the companies that were involved, though, I'm like,
yeah,
you weren't companies that were set up overnight.
yeah,
At least two of you I know have been operating for like 10 years.
yeah,
There's no way you're that stupid.
yeah, most likely. But Oh well, I'm not going to get angry about graphics cards this week. I'm just
Oh
going to
no,
be
I'm
on.
just getting
But yeah,
angry at people. You know.
yeah. Well, yeah. In that in general, yeah. Oh well.
Absolutely. But yes.
All right, I'm gonna
I
scroll back.
did.
Yeah,
I
carry
was
on.
going to say, you were saying about going into YouTube Studio. Genuinely, as soon as I noticed the 100K, I did go into the YouTube Studio app and was just like, "Where's the request button? Where is the
Yeah.
I'm interested in this?"
Yeah.
I
No,
was just like,
I'm
just
expecting
in
it to be
case.
at least a week before that appears. But
Yeah.
yeah, I'll keep an eye out for it. Right, I'm going to scroll back through the chat a little bit. So, All Dreams Fall Down. Hello again, by the way. LMG has too many YouTube channels. Please eliminate 3. I am not a crackpot. You're probably not wrong. I'm probably in agreement. But yeah, although it's how they divvy up the type of content they do, which is fair enough.
Yeah.
But yeah, because they're at that level where they have to play. They have to play a very careful game with how they provide their content. But at the same, I have mixed opinions about it because they have to game the system and the algorithm to survive like anyone else. But by the same token, theoretically, separating out the YouTube channels should make them more resilient to that and not have to play those games like the clickbait titles and stuff like that. Yet they do it anyway, so.
I think, well, at least based off of assuming that we take the things that Linus says about himself and his company at face value, they have done the tests and actually shown the screenshots from their YouTube studio on videos with normal titles and videos with other styles of titling.
Yeah.
And there is a huge difference in click-through and viewership and stuff. It's like 30% or something.
Yeah,
They were
it
saying,
makes
and
me
it's like
it
you
makes me
can't.
very sad.
Yeah, and it's just a case of you can't accept 30% less revenue.
Yeah. I hope that I am not. I hope that I don't land in a position where I am forced to make that choice, kind of thing. I have the luxury of not having to play that game. Just the same as I have the luxury of being able to say, no, I'm turning off I leave mid rolls turned off. I do not have mid roll ads on my videos. And at the moment, I consider it a luxury to be able to say, nope, turning those off because I don't like them. I hate mid rolls myself, so I don't have them on my channel. But by the same token, at some and I said when I made the video that said I'm not doing mid rolls, I did say in that video at some point I might have to turn them on, and maybe at some point I'll have to play the stupid title game. But in the meantime, I'm going to try and do my best. I mean, I think for me, I'm trying to do a balance where I do I try to do good information in the title, and then I might have a thumbnail that's just like, botched firmware update kind of thing, to try and be a bit more, so that the thumbnail can be a bit eye-catchy, but the title actually tells you what it is. That's what I'm trying to go for. The title tells you exactly what the video is, no more, no less, and then the thumbnail is the bit that tries to draw your eye in. So,
except for the titles of this show, where it's Wonderwall.
yeah. Wait. Oh yeah, no, I did update the title of this one. Yeah. The Two Guys Talk Tech. This is not a growth thing. This is just us dicking about intentionally.
And yet, for some reason, people come and watch.
Quite true. And on that note, some people also come and give us money for doing this. So on that note, it's time for some more super chats. Thank you very much, Noah, for the £3. Congrats on the 100K, well deserved. Thank you very much, Noah. Greatly appreciate it. John Morissette, enjoy the various topics discussed on the shows. Thank you very much for the $10, dude. Greatly appreciated. And Christopher David with $20. You guys are great. Love your live stream. Thank you very much, Christopher. Greatly appreciated as well. And finally, Bad Egg 99 with a $5. Congrats on 100K. Thank you very much to all of you guys as well. Really, really, really appreciate it. It's the 100K has been a long time coming, or well, I mean that as in we've been the channel growth went up a rocket ship, and then it kind of just leveled off, and it's been slowly creeping up to the 100K. It was obvious that we were gonna get to 100K. it just wasn't, there was just a big slowdown up to that point. And I have a suspicion that we're probably gonna, chill out at around 100K for quite a while. But like, I'm fine with that. I'm not greedy. I'm astonished we've got this far. It was never the plan to go this far. So, on that note, I'm hugely thankful to everyone who's helped us get here. And this is all stuff that, as I say, there's a video that will cover more of this, with the shop and all the rest of it. But there's so much that I've achieved now in the past 6 months that I'm very excited about, and we're going places. I'm very, very excited. Right, there was a couple more super chats that come in. Then I'm going to catch up on the rest of the chat and just see if there's some questions, and we'll get on to another topic. Guy Horn with the 20 Canadian dollars. Thank you very much. And Jack Glick, I started watching you last summer when I was trying to build your first gaming PC during the pandemic. Been hooked ever since. Congrats on your growth. Thank you very much, Jack. I hope the PC went well, and glad I could be helpful.
And good job on building it last year.
Yeah, big time. Oh, sadness. Right, let's see. Okay, I'll roll back a little bit and try and catch up on the chat. Let's see.
There was someone asking if you were going to build a Rocket Lake PC.
I should do. I need to build something. I want something Intel in the shop because I don't have much Intel in the shop at the moment. I've got a Kaby Lake in the works, although that needs a new CPU. Actually, on that note, I've no idea if they're watching today. However, a few weeks ago, you remember I was talking about the i5 that was trolling me. I had a dead i5, and I needed to buy another one. Someone sent me one. And an anonymous viewer sent me an i5 6500T, which is nice. I needed a 6400, and the 6500 is the low power the 6500T is the low power version of it. However, it's like 100 megahertz less. It's functionally identical for the intended use. And yeah, they sent one to me in the post. It was an anonymous sender, so I don't have a name or anything like that. However, if you are watching and you sent me that CPU, big thanks, you got me out of a hole. We put that CPU in the computer right as ninepence. So yeah, big thanks, saved my ass there. So
that's amazing.
Yeah, when it showed up, literally, I opened the box. I was like, "The hell is this?" I was like, "It's an i5. This is exactly what I need." So yeah, so yes, whoever sent that, big thanks. It sorted everything out. So yeah. Very happy with that.
I love people sometimes. It's just whilst there are lots of people where you're just like, but why?
Yeah.
There are other people where you're like, but why? For good reasons.
Yeah. There are some good eggs out there, and I appreciate all of you guys. So yeah, big thanks to that. But yes, I do want to try and get some Intel stuff in the shop, just for variety and for repair purposes as well. And also maybe just to do some Intel content, Not that it doesn't really matter what's in the computer as far as I'm concerned in terms of, content-wise, like people are just like, oh, you're going to do some Intel content. I'm just like, it's the same thing. It's a motherboard with a CPU in it and a cooler on top. You buy whatever's most cost-effective at the time of that build. It doesn't matter what brand it is as far as I'm concerned. However, but yeah, it would be nice to take a look at some modern Intel. I'll see how Rocket Lake does. It might be handy. I need to check out the thermals of it as well because I want to build up a test bench thing for testing CPU coolers and stuff like that. And apparently Rocket Lake is a bit of a hot boy. So like maybe I'll end up going Rocket Lake instead of the 5800X that I was planning on buying. But we'll see. I'll see what's available to me at any given time. Let's see. Okay, right. Couple more super chats because they're coming in thick and fast. I'm trying to catch up with the chat to get onto a topic, but people keep throwing money at me, so you're all nuts. Peter Johnson, thank you very much for the $5. Hi guys, Graham. Can or do you make available a brief list of your favorite tools, even things as simple as screwdrivers? I haven't done a toolkit in a very long time, However, stuff like this is in the works because the behind the scenes videos that I've been making for the channel members, Patreons, etc. By the way, there's another one of those uploaded that I will be publishing this evening that brings everything up to speed, because I haven't published one of those for about a month. But there's another one that I uploaded last night that's going to bring things up to speed to get you guys up to the current. So yeah, the plan for those is that once I've finished arranging the shop, I would then go into I would then be going into a series of effectively building up a computer shop again, and I'd be saying, right, okay, so new shop, I need to resort out all of my tools. Here are all the tools that I currently have, and I'm going to add to it. So there will be a tools video coming up. Maybe as a special treat, we'll do that software toolkit that we spoke about literally 26 episodes ago as a special treat. Do you think we'll do that sometime?
I didn't realise there was an intention of actually somewhat releasing it. Just a case of
just discussing
the fact of the discussion of whilst working in the same field, physically located close to each other, the fact that we ended up building something completely different.
Yeah. Different things work for different people. That's the problem with the software toolkit. And also, yeah, again, it's just, it came up last night.
I think that was more the point.
Yeah.
We were talking about that, just of how different it was.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah. So yeah, just a case of kind of a software toolkit as kind of saying, oh, you know, like some sort of holy doctrine is a terrible way of doing it.
I'd agree with that.
You'll find very different things work for very different people.
I think being in a community is quite helpful. One of my favorite parts about the Discord server is watching people discussing repair and people saying, oh, try this utility. Because we have a separate channel for useful apps where when people have a useful app that they like to use, they can post a link to it there and just say, here's a useful app, it does X, Y, Z. And, you know, a lot of stuff that I post in, I'm just like, yeah, that doesn't really help. That's not something I'm interested in. But now and then someone posts something, I'm like, oh, hello, that sounds very useful. And it just makes you aware of these things that are out there. So, yeah, that's a handy thing as well. Okay, right. Oh, boy, here we go. Marcel Lipovsky. Sorry if I'm butchering your name, Selfman. However, thank you very much for the 10 euros. 10 euros toward finally getting the Rigol scope. Oh, yes, okay, I will. You're right, I will. Although, actually, I'll go and grab it as a special just to show you that I'm not messing around. We will get the Rigol scope. However, as a special treat, as something that is probably coming up imminently. I don't know when, because the video requires a little bit of prep work. I bought a FLIR. I bought a FLIR 1. So thermal camera. I got it. We've got one. So I finally caved. I buckled. I just bought the FLIR 1. Yes, it's just called the FLIR 1.
The USB-C one.
Yes, USB-C. So got that. The packaging for it is very nicely presented. It's a cool product. I like it. So yeah, I haven't done anything with it yet. I've just plugged it in and been like, ooh, you know. However, what I'm going to do, that's the technical term. You go, ooh. What I'm going to do, I'm going to try and rig a motherboard with some dead capacitors on it. And so I've got to figure out how to do that because I don't have any board repair jobs lying around at the moment. So I'll have to get a donor board and try and nuke some caps on it. Pop a couple of caps in its ass.
Do not say that again.
Anyway, I've got to try and rig a board. So, and then I'll do injection, and then what I want to do a test and be like, right, this thing has a resolution of like 80 by 60 or something like that. Is that really good enough to find a dead capacitor? And just how good is this actually? So, going to do that. And then, yes, next on the list is the scope. So, right, scrolling down. Hi, Graham. Do you accept older Intel 2 motherboards for your shoppers' donations? I mean, to be honest, if people want to send me stuff, you're more than welcome. I don't know how much of it I will use. However, if people send me stuff, there's every now and then there's going to be something in there that I'm just like, hey, I can do something with this. So like, if you've got something you want to send my way, feel free to, but just keep in mind, rule of thumb is there's never any guarantee that I will actually get anything, that I will actually use it or feature it in anything. So I appreciate anything that people send in. However, can't guarantee that it's something that I will actually find useful. But yeah, if anyone's chucking stuff out and they want to send it my way, I'll do something with it. So yeah. Let's see. Then there's
you've actually got space.
Yes, I do actually have the space now, which is nice. And then just another quick one. Tony Hiltunen. Yes, I did get that right, I think. Thank you very much for the €5. Good evening, guys, from Finland. Congratulations on 100,000 followers now in channel. Thank you very much. Right. Okay, I think we're up to date on all of these bonkers super chats. Thank you very much, everyone, again. Greatly appreciated. Right, okay. We need a topic. Right, anything you spotted in chat? Because I'm going to start scanning chat.
I sent you a DM on Discord.
Ah, okay. I will check that. A DM, you say?
I thought may be of interest, just as a comparison point.
Okay, right. Ah, this is talking about. Okay, so this is a tweet from Dr. Ian Cutress, talking about fabrication process. So there's lots of talk at the moment. Obviously, Intel are still kind of getting battered over the fact that they're on 14 nanometer. And everyone is sort of going, 14 nanometer, TSMC are now working on like 5 nanometer, etc., etc. And this here is a list. Can I put this on screen? I can, yeah. Hang on a sec. I need a screen capture. And then we can just discuss it. Actually, do you want to go through this, Caradog, since you have found it? There we go. Bam.
Sure. In a loose sense. And obviously, if you put it up so it's easier for people to ingest the information, as opposed to saying acronyms and numbers at people.
We do that. There we go. And if I just scooch that over. Oh, that didn't work very well. I wanted to crop. Oh, well.
Oh, well.
Well, there's the list anyway.
Absolutely. And just sort of talking about the density differences between what is listed as the same manufacturing node by nanometers. There was also a discussion a couple of years ago by a joint committee, for want of a better description, to move away from the nanometer scale and move over to describing it as a density scale for each process.
Yeah.
To make it so it's more easily comparable between foundries.
Yeah, because for those of you who don't know, obviously, nanometer. How is nanometer measured again? Is it the distance between each transistor gate, or the gap between the transistors?
I think it's the smallest possible transistor gate that a process can make. I think, or something.
Yeah.
Very much.
However, the key factor is that if we take, for example, TSMC's process, if they're working at, say, 10 nanometers, so again, I might be butchering this because edge of my knowledge, but the point is, let's say, for example, that TSMC are making transistors that are 10 nanometers across, so they call that a 10 nanometer process. However, if Intel make transistors that are 10 nanometers across, they potentially put the transistors closer to each other. So even though they're both 10 nanometer transistors, Intel have packed more of them into a smaller space, which arguably makes Intel's process smaller. So that's the problem with measuring in nanometers. So the proposition is that we really kind of need to be measuring in pixel density, in transistor density.
Yeah, absolutely. And also just the fact of it's millions per millimeter. That's still the thing that's utterly bonkers.
Millions per millimeter. Oh my god. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's kind of a case of current process nodes are at like 170 million transistors per square millimeter kind of thing, and it's just like, what? That's utterly mad.
Yeah, that is pretty nuts.
Yeah,
But yeah, it is interesting to see that. But yeah, I mean, obviously the critical thing here is looking at these numbers. Um, it it is something, and I have been careful about doing this before. It is important. I think the resolution that we should be looking at in this tweet is the fact that we kind of need to stop letting Intel be a punching bag for still being quote unquote stuck on 14 nanometer when their 14 nanometer process is actually, it it, it is almost comparable. It falls somewhere between. Well, hang on a sec. No, it's when you get down to the 10 nanometer process that
yeah.
things stack
It
up.
falls.
Yeah, the
It
14
it
nanometer
rough.
process is kind of naff, but their 10 nanometer process is double the density of the TSMC 10 nanometer process. That's where the
Yeah,
numbers get interesting.
yeah, absolutely. It's just a case of that air density on there, and just the fact of obviously when Intel finally starts shipping its 10 nanometer in volume, it will be at a similar density to TSMC's 7 nanometer.
Yeah.
So the 7 nanometer that AMD and everyone will be using from TSMC will be very similar to what Intel's doing
Hmm.
in actual density. So yeah, it's just interesting that even though they're very late to the punch, even getting there late will put them at parity kind of thing, roughly, even
Yeah.
though they will appear to still be behind.
Yeah. That will be good.
And
So
if they do ship 7 nanometer in a timely fashion, their density is actually likely to be slightly ahead. If they manage to ship their 7 nanometer in the timescale they're kind of,
hmm.
is on their roadmap, they'll be on a slightly higher density process slightly sooner. So they'll
Yeah.
actually get a density advantage again, like they used to have.
I think we could potentially see Intel sort of pulling a slingshot, so to speak, where they are suffering at the moment, but as soon as soon as they actually get their new manufacturing process sorted out, they could potentially slingshot into the lead quite easily. Because that is what's killing them at the moment is just their process because it is being stuck on the 14 nanometer CPUs that's holding them back right now. And likewise, the success of Zen sort of 2 and 3 is largely in part due to the fact that they've got a great manufacturing process that's working for them.
Mm,
I think that is a heavy contributor.
yeah. And obviously, it's a case of it's not just the raw density that matters specifically, because obviously,
Mm,
if you've got a very well sort of integrated design, a design that is well integrated with the process that it's being built on, obviously, there'll be better efficiency with that design and that tape out and so on. So it's important for that to work well for you as well. But yes, it's just interesting that if the how big of a leap with each sort of nanometer reduction Intel is doing, how much of
yeah.
a density increase they're looking for.
Yeah, because on those numbers, going from 14 to 10, they're going to more than double their transistor density. And yeah, massively, massively
Yeah, exactly.
agreed.
So a case of yeah, they're looking at more than doubling it and then doubling it again, kind of thing on the process node improvement, whereas it's kind of a 50% improvement from TSMC in this specific example. But yeah,
Hmm, rad. Okay. So another one that came up in the chat, which I think everyone wants to talk about. Yeah, I don't know if there's really much to talk about here, but everyone wants to talk about it. Microsoft potentially buying Discord. Remember, it hasn't happened yet. Um, it's just simply a thing that's being talked about. And lots of people are like, I watched the WAN show earlier on, and they spent the first half of it discussing about Discord being whether Discord was profitable or not and stuff like that. And I'm just
mm,
like, I don't know if it really matters, to be honest. I'm more interested in what because a lot of people consider Microsoft buying Discord to be like the death knell for Discord. And I'm like, I think a more interesting subject is what would a post-Microsoft Discord look like? Why is everyone super upset about Discord being bought by Microsoft? So I'm kind of thinking, what would your predictions be for Discord buying Microsoft? Like, first easy one is logging into Discord with your Microsoft account. That's a given. And
or certainly the case if you'll be able to.
yeah, I think they'll do the same thing that they did with. Hang on a sec, I'm breaking one of these cans open.
Do the same thing as they did with
Skype.
Skype.
Yeah, where when Microsoft bought Skype, for quite a long time, you could sign in with a Skype account or a Microsoft account. And they did the same thing with Mixer as well, for anyone.
You can still sign into Skype with a Skype account, as far as I'm aware.
I think you can. However, if you're signing into
a legacy account.
Yeah, if you have a legacy account, it's been hacked. You don't.
Yeah.
Like, if you have a Skype legacy account, it has been hacked. Because certainly at the end of the Skype era, when I stopped using Skype, anyone ever whose account was getting hacked, they were using a legacy account. And if you were signing in with a Microsoft account, you were more or less immune to all of the exploit links and stuff like that. So yeah, obviously Discord doesn't suffer the same issues, but it's a thing. So as I say, I think Skype were still supporting legacy accounts for a very long time, but it was a case of don't be on a legacy account. Terrible place to be. So I think we would see a dual thing. Obviously, lots of people are going sort of, oh well, they've got to monetize it and stuff. Well, I assume that they're going to be leveraging in Game Pass and all the rest of it.
I just suddenly thought of the fact that it's technically possible to sign into, like OneDrive and Outlook using an MSN account that got mutated through Skype.
Oh God. Ugh.
Because that's what happened to my original account.
Yeah, hands up anyone who's still got a hotmail.co.uk account.
No. My account was registered from an AOL email address.
Yeah. Oh boy.
So I had an AOL email address that was a Microsoft account registered because they got MSN Messenger, turned it to Live Messenger, and then Skype, and so on. So yeah.
Gross.
It was the comment I made as soon as I saw the news was, Discord's Nitro Classic coming to Game Pass when?
Yeah, agreed.
As far as I can tell, it's basically, as far as I can tell, Microsoft's monetization method for the general consumer is Game Pass and Game Pass Ultimate.
Yeah, exactly that. And this is the thing. Teltac just said Microsoft doesn't need Discord to be profitable, to be valuable. Look at how they're building out their new ecosystem. And I entirely agree with that sentiment. I keep saying this to people, when it comes to like the Xbox Series X versus the PlayStation 5 and stuff like that, and the very latter days of the Xbox One versus the PS4. Now, obviously, make no mistake, a lot more PS4s got sold than Xboxes. That's just facts. But, when Microsoft said we're not competing with Sony in the console space, everyone laughed at them. But that's the thing, they're not. Microsoft are selling subscriptions and are building an ecosystem, whereas Sony just want to sell consoles. And obviously they obviously want exclusives on those consoles to get more people to buy the consoles and then buy the games, which they get the things on as well. Obviously the products are very similar, but they're going about it in two completely different ways. And Microsoft's game really is an ecosystem game now, everything as a service. So this is the thing. A lot of people think that Microsoft are going to come in and destroy everything. But apart from just integration, I can't see them actually doing a lot with Discord. My only slight concern would just be, just the concern of just them meddling, basically, because obviously, but then I don't think
it might mean that Discord streams don't get compressed into the Stone Age.
maybe we'll see. I have mixed
Also,
opinions about that because, like, a lot of people complain about how poor quality the Discord video streams are, but I'm just like, well, if you need something better than that, you shouldn't be. You should be doing it on a proper platform, unless Microsoft are intending to develop Discord into a real stream platform, because obviously they killed Mixer, so they don't have a streaming platform anymore. I wonder if Microsoft would actually be looking to evolve Discord into a streaming platform. And that would be a real that's a very interesting play that they could make with it.
I
But
don't think it would work, just
no,
because obviously that's not how the discoverability works. For
no.
Discord, it's not designed for a setup like
Yeah,
that. So
and
yeah,
there's no money in that. And I know we just said that
no.
they don't need it to be profitable, but there's a difference between not being profitable and designing to lose money.
Yeah.
Obviously you don't want to deliberately lose money on something.
No, exactly. You don't want to build it in the sense of it will cost more money than it could ever make.
Mm,
So yeah.
yeah, but we'll see. So yeah, that's the thing. Is just a lot of people are going sort of, oh, this is terrible and stuff, and I'm just like, well, what are you actually expecting them to do? I'm not convinced. So far, I've not seen any. I don't see any real reason to be worried about this, and that's assuming that it happens at all, because again, I hate to always base my opinions on what they've been saying on the WAN show, but on Luke from WAN show, he said that he doesn't think that Discord are actually going to accept the offer, and he thinks that they are just entertaining this just to do a big show of making Discord suddenly look valuable. So when they inevitably go public at some point, they can be like, well, Microsoft valued us at 10 billion in first quarter 2021.
Yeah.
So that's now our baseline. That there's a precedent has been set for the value of our company that is not possibly making any money.
Certainly not making that volume of money.
Yeah, so that's kind of interesting, and I think, I mean, it might happen because there's two possibilities. Is either they're looking to build themselves up so they can go public, sell a load of stock, and make a lot of money. But then I don't see how that can be sustainable, because if you go public, at some point you've actually got to turn a profit, because you'll have shareholders, and so then
the company has to turn a profit.
Yeah.
So you have a company, you get a valuation, you go public, you dump the stock, you take millions and millions of pounds, you vanish off, and then go, your problem now, go fix the company.
Yeah. Okay.
That's
Yes.
what happens in most circumstances.
Yes, because that's the skeptic in me was gunning at basically this, that they will build. This is the classic case of build up a popular product, amass a huge user base, sell to a big tech company for millions, retire. That's the skeptic's eye view of this. So obviously, if you sold to Microsoft for 10 billion, then all the founding members of Discord are just like, awesome, we're never going to work another day in our lives. Goodbye. And good for them, to be honest. They made it. And however, if they go public, then I guess they could just dump their stock and run off with it and leave it to be someone else's problem. However, that would be a dump and run. Because again, you would, even if you go public and you sell a lot of stock for a lot of money, at some point, whoever owns that company is going to expect a profit. And yeah, you're going to end up with a revolving door of CEOs who are all coming in and are being tasked with trying to make this company profitable with a product that doesn't make money.
Yeah, absolutely.
Interesting. given that most of Discord is Dockerized K8s, they don't need anything to be super amazing. Yeah, I think Discord's main enemy at the moment is probably bandwidth. Bandwidth and storage is my understanding of their two main enemies, because they need a lot of bandwidth because of the streaming they're doing, and they need a lot of storage because of the amount of embedded stuff they store, which I think is bonkers, quite frankly. I think the file upload limits on Discord are way too high. You know, I think it's ridiculous what they will allow you to embed on Discord. I think that's crazy.
8 meg if 8 meg is standard, 100 if you've got Note.
Yeah, like you can just use that as cloud storage. You wouldn't want to, obviously, but
Almost.
like,
Yeah.
like there's nothing stopping you from doing that, and that is just that's crazy. So
Absolutely. That's I can't remember what I was doing, but that was basically how I shared stuff with someone. And I was just like, oh, I'll just drag it into Discord. Went, oh my god.
mm,
Oh, okay. I guess that's where we are now.
yeah,
So yeah. It's
nice
like
apple juice. It's lemon squash.
I think the other thing that's mad though is that if a server gets to a certain number of members, all of the members can upload it 100 meg
Mm,
and stuff like that. So it's like I don't see how they make money.
yeah,
You don't even have to boost the server for it to get to that point. You just have to have, 2,000 plus members.
yeah.
It's like,
It's crazy. I'm not. Yeah. There's. I don't know. I hesitate to say it, but part of me feels like I don't understand. I don't understand what Discord's plan was the with the streaming stuff in general. It feels like adding in the ability to stream and screen share and stuff like that. Sure, lots of people use it and stuff. It's definitely useful, but I'm not sure. I'm not sure how they intended that to be vaguely kind of profitable, instead of just doing voice. Like when it was just chat and voice, I thought like that's enough. And adding in the ability to do video call, well, I suppose if you add in video calls, then you may as well have streaming. And video calls were kind of a requirement. So yeah, I've just answered my own question, so ignore me.
yes, it's very much a case of I don't think it was built for profitability.
Yeah. I'd be interested to know, someone, DNA Electronics mentioned venture capitalist stuff. I wonder if they have any venture capitalist stuff involved. I don't know, but of course that's the trap that Patreon fell into, is that they accepted a metric butt ton of money in venture capital and then had absolutely no way of being able to make a return on that. Although so far they haven't fallen over yet. But yeah, I really hope that Discord didn't make the same mistake.
Aware, something like 40% of Discord is owned by Tencent.
Is it?
Yeah. I think it's that percentage. It's a reasonably high but non-majority share.
Interesting. I didn't know that Tencent had their hooks in Discord. I mean, I
Yeah.
don't know who did, because Discord's privacy is sketchy. It's
There
it's
isn't
not.
any.
Yeah. So yeah, it doesn't surprise me, and it wouldn't really change anything. But yeah. But yeah, Mike Jones, you keep hearing people say join our Discord server. Sounds like a TeamSpeak chat server. That's basically what Discord is. Discord is the modern day TeamSpeak, except the best part of Discord now is that you have a room tree. So when you have a Discord server, that's the same as having a TeamSpeak server. But and in TeamSpeak you could have multiple voice channels. However, Discord is designed to have multiple chat rooms and voice channels, so you can divide up your content into each space. And it is definitely the best form of group communication at the moment, the best all-rounder. So yeah. So it's very good. It's very good for it's very, very good for community building. I think it is the best type of community building right now. There's lots of people who are looking around for the correct social media platform to be on. And I actually say to a lot of people these days that if you want to build up community or grow in someone else's community, being in Discord is the best place to be. It's very difficult to get traction or notice on big social media platforms like Facebook, Twitter, stuff like that. However, it's a lot easier to be present and be known in a Discord community, and more directly useful, in my opinion, as well. So,
imagine being useful on Discord.
yeah. David Hostbo with 17 Danish Corona. Did I get that right this time? I think I did.
Yeah.
Here's to the Adamant IT Venture Capital Fund. That implies that I'm going to pay it back at some point with dividends, which I'm not going to do. However, thank you very much.
That infers that Adamant IT is ever going to turn a profit. That would require it to have functioning accounts.
All of these super chats are gifts, which are non-returnable. And what's the legal speak for this again?
I don't know.
It's a free gift or something. Thank you very much. I greatly appreciate it. Date is Corona, not Corona. Oh no. I'll get it right one of these days.
My Sharona.
Let's see. What else was going on?
Also, yes, about Gilded. Just trying to be a competitor to Discord. As far as I can tell, someone literally went copy, paste.
Yeah.
Control F, Discord, replace Gilded.
Yeah. I don't know how I feel about Gilded at the moment. I'd forgotten that it existed through all of this, actually, because I knew that Gilded existed because I know a couple of streamers who are on the Gilded bandwagon. Most of the people I know who've started Gilded servers are more salty that they lost Discord partnership. And I'm not sure why people are salty about it, because it's just like Discord partnership isn't actually very good. You don't actually get anything useful out of it. Like I applied for Discord partnership like probably 6 months ago, haven't heard back from them. But when I was filling out the form, you had to fill out in the application form. It had to say you had to fill out stuff like why you're applying for a Discord, how do you feel like being a Discord partner will help you grow and stuff like that. And I was basically filling that out, being like, honestly, I'm doing it for the free Nitro, but I don't think I should type that into the form, you know? Like, that's the thing. When you look at the benefits list of Discord partnership, it's just like, apart from free Nitro and a vanity URL, like the vanity URL, that was the main reason I wanted it. That's the main reason why I want Discord partnership, is for the vanity URL. But apart from that, I'm just like, I don't see how any of this is useful to me in the slightest. So being a community server, which is kind of like affiliate, it's a step down from that. That's kind of useful because you get loads of really cool insights. But you
also get some better filtering stuff.
Yeah,
it's like stuff I linked a week or so ago. As far as I'm aware, that's community only at the moment. Community and partnered and what have you only at the moment.
Yeah. So, Gilded has calendar and docs. That's interesting. That's a couple of additional features. So that would be useful for planning events.
One thing that would be very useful in almost all circumstances is if you could say we're doing an event at this time and it translated it to the local time of the client.
Yes, I'm assuming that Gilded's calendar can do that.
Because the number of people who don't understand what time zone they're in concerns me greatly.
I should look at Gilded just so I know it, just so I'm familiar with it. I don't plan on using it, but so just to quickly catch a couple of people on chat up with this. Gilded is a Discord knockoff. Well, no, that's not fair. Gilded is a Discord competitor. Knockoff implies that it's an inferior version, yada, yada, yada. Gilded is the same as Discord, just under another brand. As I say, lots of people have been moving over to Gilded because they're disgruntled with Discord for various reasons. I don't know how useful it is. I haven't jumped on the Gilded bandwagon because one of the biggest blessings of Discord to me was unifying the chats. I was so sick of having like 3 chat clients on my computer, like IRC, TeamSpeak, Skype, and at one point, Telegram as well. And then when Discord came in and everyone jumped to Discord, I was like, yes, now I have one program with all of my chat communities in it.
Hallelujah.
Except for the Telegram group, who are just like, we're not moving. And I'm just like, fine.
I'm leaving, man.
Yeah, I do want to reconnect with that friend group, but suffice to say, I haven't spoken to them in a while, and I'm sad about that. I do want to reconnect with them, but whatever. So yeah, so Gilded is like Discord, and the reason why I haven't jumped on it yet is I don't want another chat program running, basically. However, I should at least make an account and stuff like that, just so I've got it and I'm aware of it. The vanity URL is right now the Discord invite URL, which I should be able to grab. Where's hang on a sec, YouTube Studio. Where's the description for this? So right now, the Discord invite URL is, which I'll put it in the chat to promote. Yeah. So the Discord invite URL is that at the moment. So it's discord.gg/bdv4htc, which is kind of annoying. And a vanity URL would be discord.gg/adamant. And I can pick that URL. So vanity URLs are great, basically, and you want one. And one of the sucky things about Discord is you can't have a vanity URL unless you're a partner. So yeah, thankfully, a lot of people who are former Discord partners, like Slinkinage in chat, who was mentioning it, they were able to keep the useful things like the custom URL and better quality voice servers. But yeah, lost the free Nitro, sad face. But yeah, still gets a vanity URL, which is nice. So yeah, custom URL. So as I say, I want partnership just for the vanity URL, more or less. But I'm not holding my breath at the moment. Use DNS and root hostname to your Discord link. You could do that, yeah. And that would be one way of doing it. It's just nice to have, ideally you want to be sharing an actual discord.gg link because people recognize that. So.
Yes.
I'm going to assume that Gilded doesn't sell your data as heavily as Discord does. I've no idea. Is the answer to that. I have no idea. That would be interesting to know if Gilded are more ethical than Discord are. Because again, that would be a good thing. Although I don't know if I'd switch over, because the problem I have now is where I am a content creator and I've built a community. I haven't touched my infra in 3 years. Yeah, true. Discord doesn't sell your data like at all. They had a proper bloody review. Oh, okay. Okay. Yeah. And it's not a thing. So their privacy is sketchy because the problem is that when you delete stuff on Discord, unless you delete it in a very certain way, it's not actually gone. It's very difficult to actually delete stuff from Discord. However, of course, that's different from selling data. If the inability to effectively delete stuff is not the same as that stuff being sold off. So obviously there are different aspects to that discussion. However, that does make me happy to hear that they're not actually selling your data. Although if Microsoft buys them, that will likely change.
Also, the other thing is obviously the fact of there's nothing particularly stopping Discord bots, stopping stuff from scraping all the data specifically, but it's a U permissions thing. And also the fact that they don't necessarily need to sell it because obviously they're owned by Tencent, and Tencent is the Chinese government. So you don't need to actually sell it when you're already owned by the Chinese government.
Yeah. Yeah, I had not realized that Tencent were involved in Discord.
Tencent own a share in basically everything.
Yeah.
I mean, that's kind of how it works when you have lots and lots of money.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, I've just Googled it to see if I can get any further information about that. But yeah, to develop Discord, Hammer and Chisel gained additional funding from UWeb's 9 Plus incubator, which had also funded the startup of Hammer and Chisel, and from Benchmark Capital and from Tencent. Yeah, didn't know that. But yeah, and yeah, that's the issue is that if you're owned by Tencent, then yeah, the data goes to Tencent. That's, yeah. I mean, it's this is kind of like the difficulty that that TikTok have when they're talking about whether any data leaves the US from TikTok from the TikTok app.
Toxic.
Yeah, and it's difficult to check. I would imagine, it's entirely possible that despite having a lot of Tencent ownership, that no data actually goes to Tencent. I don't think that ownership automatically means that the data actually goes there. But I wouldn't know without actually checking. So,
Yeah. I mean, obviously, data does leave the US by the fact that you can browse it outside the US.
yes. I mean, yes, that's true. So I suppose, but it's a question of whether they actually gather the data per se. I guess they could scrape it. However, as Teltac said, scraping is not necessarily easy. So, yeah, it's very difficult. I don't. Yeah,
It's a very difficult conversation to have because there's so much stuff that you have to define beforehand
yeah, and
as to
also so
what.
much stuff where it's a case of without having actual studies or an actual investigation, there's a lot of stuff which is just assumptions as well. Like we
But
don't
it's
know.
also, kind of defining what do you mean by it leaving the US? What do you mean by um sharing it? What data are you talking about? Are you talking about the content of the messages sent on the service? The a list of usernames, the login information as to the total number of people who've logged in that day from a country. What data are you actually specifically referring to? Because some of it's super important that it isn't shared, like the content of the messages, who is sending messages specifically. But kind of going, oh, 36,000 people signed in from the UK for the first time today to our services as new users. That's kind of irrelevant.
Yeah,
But it's a case of you have to define that, and obviously you're defining what is personally identifiable information about a
yeah,
user. And then you go, well, is the IP address important? Yes, because it can be linked back, but at the same time, is it important in the context of what we're talking about because you want to hide something from your wife?
yeah.
Who are you hiding from? Who are you wanting to remain anonymous or private from? So
And
it's
it's
kind of that.
also an issue of people understanding the ramifications and legal terms. Just an input here, Jonathan McD in chat just said, my job title is data architect, and a hot topic just now is the ethical use of mobility data. I think the main issue is people just don't understand what it actually means to use a digital device. So yeah, very good point there. And this similarly reminds me of on various platforms like Twitter, DeviantArt, and places like that. Every now and then there has been a big hoo-ha where they've made a change in their terms of service, and some smart ass has gone through the terms of service, and they've found a section that says words to the effect of you grant, say, DeviantArt permission to you, and everything you upload, you grant DeviantArt free use to use anywhere on the platform and modify as they see fit, and sort of words to those effect. And then they make a big call out post saying, DeviantArt is claiming copyright of your art and they're selling it to bootleg t-shirt makers and all the rest of it. And they make this big old call out post and everyone has a meltdown and goes, oh, I'm closing my account and deleting all of my stuff. Whereas what they actually mean is that if you upload a picture to, say, DeviantArt, in order to make a thumbnail and display it in a new artwork feed somewhere else on the website, DeviantArt need to take your image, modify it into a thumbnail, and use it somewhere else on the website that is not in your gallery, which means they are taking it and they are using it and they are modifying it. That's what that means. But
The
people
problem
immediately
is,
take that and run away with it. So I'm not saying that this doesn't happen, but the point is
but
there's a
also
lot of misunderstanding about what is involved in this.
there's also just a lack of specificity
Yeah,
in the privacy policy. Because
yeah,
if they said we're taking the art to do this, the uploads that you do to do this kind of thing, and similar, people would be far more understanding of it. So it's kind of, yeah.
yeah, agreed.
There's
So
also lots of, yes, things about difficulties with young users and so on, of course, as
yeah,
well.
that's true. Yeah, that a lot of issues, especially copper, is a hot topic these days as well. So there's what you can gather from there. So yes, that's pretty hectic, and that one's very difficult as well because the vast majority of these websites you're not allowed to use them if you're under 13 anyway. However, of course, the the issue when you get into that one is the fact of, despite the fact that you're not supposed to use them if you're under 13, it's widely accepted that under 13-year-olds are using them, and the
Yeah,
websites are being
absolutely.
held responsible for that, despite the fact that this is against their terms of service anyway. And good grief, this can of worms.
I think, yes, I think certainly a case of there needs to be a legal incentive for them to make all reasonable efforts to
Mm,
do things about it, if it makes sense. So obviously a case of if they find out that you are below the age, account is terminated, the data is withdrawn, kind of thing.
yeah,
Stuff like that. But at the same time, they shouldn't be forced by the law to go on a witch hunt and ban anyone who ever says anything that might infer that, in fact, they may possibly be less than a certain age.
yeah. Don't
When
ask, don't
that
tell.
also could have just been a case of inaccurate articulation on the point of the person who was saying.
Mm,
Kind of forcing people to go on witch hunts is always a terrible idea.
yeah, yeah. Yeah. And so rolling back to the privacy bit here, there's a couple more bits in chat where Discord claim they're not sending any personal data to Tencent. And also the
Mm.
Discord policy, no sale of personal information. See, this is another issue, is no sale of personal information. Doesn't mean they're not sharing it internally. And then you've got to define what is internally. Does internally include their investors and partners like Tencent and so on? And so again, we fall back to that issue of definitions.
Mm.
So
I think that in a case that Discord isn't anywhere near as bad as it could be,
yeah, for the record,
it certainly isn't Facebook
yeah,
and the like, but it's a case of be under no illusion that it is private,
mm,
but it's electronic communication, therefore it is not private
yeah.
by
There's
its very
a
nature. So it's
couple.
kind of that huge. That's a huge, massive scale with two ridiculous extremes. But
Mm,
obviously, it's a case of they aren't that, and it sits somewhere in the middle. And you kind of have to, decide what you're comfortable with. And also a case of, to a degree, I'm sure you can manage a lot of it by the fact that Discord doesn't ask for that much information when you create the account,
mm,
and being careful with what you share, you can avoid other issues and so on. So,
yes. Yeah, I feel like it's important to point out here that I don't think Discord is dead. I don't think Discord is doomed, and I'm not. And also, and
I
I
also don't think it's bad for its data policies. I
yes,
feel like I
precisely.
feel like its data policies are actually quite good,
Yeah.
and also from the little snippets I've seen of other reviews that other independent companies have done, they seem
Mm,
to actually be genuinely interested in trying to operate in a somewhat ethical fashion.
mm,
Certainly from a security standpoint, certainly from a point of view of sharing information.
yeah.
They seem to, at least the people who've been involved in these, um,
This conversation is purely hypothetical,
yeah,
effectively.
absolutely. They seem to have tried. They seem to be coming from the place of going, let's make a really awesome platform that does everything someone could possibly need, and also let's make security and make a degree of privacy inside the product so people don't have to think about it. So kind of that.
Yeah. Discord despite its shortcomings, is effectively the best of a bad situation.
Yeah, kind
And
of.
when we discuss these things about Discord and potential concerns and stuff like that, this is purely just spitballing as to, because again, when you look at other people like Facebook, they're much, 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 much worse. But we have this conversation purely to get people thinking about what questions they should be asking and what things
Yeah,
they should be thinking
absolutely.
about. But ultimately, of course, yeah, it's the assumption is always that there is no privacy on the internet, and
Yeah,
if you don't want other people to know it, don't type it into a computer. That's the bottom line.
which isn't meant to sound like victim blaming and
Yes.
isn't meant to sound like, oh, well, you're stupid. You should have just assumed that everyone was going to
Yeah.
be able to find your nude pictures, etc., etc., etc.
The
No, it's still horrific and it's still terrible and it's still a complete breach of trust that someone has shared that, whether it was electronic or otherwise. But it's kind of a case of the starting point is kind of going, assume everything will be leaked and everything will be shared,
yeah.
and set your boundaries, your limits from that point of view.
We don't like the situation that we found ourselves in. However, that is the situation that we have found ourselves in. We would like to change it, and hopefully the world is working toward a change. I think there is a shift toward I think there is a shift toward potentially a more private internet. It's kind of like how there's a shift away from cookies, because Google want to completely destroy. Google want to make cookies no longer a thing in browsers, which would be
Google
great.
want to I think that's because Google wants to block other advertising platforms,
Yes, there's there.
basically.
Yeah, for the time being, let's forget. Let's cast aside what Google's motive for doing this might be. Let's not delude ourselves into thinking that Google are looking out for poor little us and our poor little privacy.
Mm.
So yeah, let's not entertain that idea. However, the fact still remains is that Google do want to remodel the cookies into something more modern, because cookies are an ancient technology by modern standards.
So
And by remodeling into something new, it actually enables more control over privacy. Now, again, the idea of Google wanting to do this so they're the ones in control, and the idea of Google doing this so they can block out competitors, these things may be entirely true. However, the fact remains is that it does demonstrate a trend towards something more modern, and the fact that it seems like the internet and tech companies as a whole are aware that privacy as a concern is out of control, and we're trying to do something about it. Is that is the trend that I think I'm seeing.
I've no idea what JWTs are, but my immediate thought was Jamaican wrestling tango. And I was just like, okay, I've no idea. What is it? Jammy white Twix? Just just wacky telecoms?
I'm drinking Stowford Press for anyone who's curious.
Java.
Jason
Oh,
Webb
okay.
token.
Okay.
Okay.
Java white and tacky. Hold on. Oh no, that sounds like a hipster cider now. Jama
Mm.
white and tacky.
Yeah,
Or a
Google wants to get
firm
rid
of
of cookies, so
Swiss.
their brownies are the only way for them to target you with ads with their own ad service. Yeah, yeah, potentially. However, the issue with cookies is how abusable they are. That's the problem. Cookies are broken because they're old. So we'll see.
Yes. I also still think it's amazing that I can just steal cookies from someone's computer and instantly be signed in on their website, on the websites they were signed in on.
Does that work? I didn't think that worked these days. I don't think anyone who had a website that was vaguely respectable actually allowed that to work.
I mean, it appears to still work.
Ugh. Ugh. I hope not. I really hope that Teltac is immediately going to type into the chat, "You idiot, that's not a thing anymore." But on the other hand, I'm sure that there are some websites out there that are bad enough to actually still allow that to be a thing.
Does it? I wonder if it's because it was a device that was already on my network. So, if that makes sense, IP address was the same. I don't know. But yes, I've done it to myself.
Yeah.
Because I was like, this can't be a thing.
Yeah, Teltac just confirmed it can still work. Depends on the website. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm sure there's some bad ones. This is the problem with modern like I'm not even a
I'm not even. I'm not even. I'm not even.
I'm not a cybersecurity specialist. I'm not in infosec or anything like that. Teltac is the man for that. However, it blows my mind when you see any kind of system that is compromised with basic bitch exploits like SQL injection and stuff like that. And I don't even mean exotic SQL. Like I have a friend of mine has a Discord server. They've built their own Discord bot, and recently there was an everyone ping in that server to say, can everyone please stop using apostrophe symbols in their nicknames because it makes the bot crash, because the apostrophe is interpreted as a MySQL command. And I'm just like, you're not sanitizing your inputs. This is day one lessons.
Oh my god. So in other words, I just need to set my username to be
Little
Bobby
Timmy
Drop
Drop Tables. Yep. And it's just like, I didn't say anything because like by the time I got there, like further down, there was a thing saying, okay, we fixed this. But however, I saw that, I'm like, you're not sanitizing your inputs? Jesus wept, it's just, I'm not even a programmer. I'm not a programmer. I'm not an infosec specialist. I'm not a cybersecurity. I'm not any of these things. I am not even. And I know that you've got to sanitize your inputs, and that's the thing. It's just so when someone tells me, yes, there are still websites out there where you can copy a cookie from one computer to another computer and it will successfully copy that sign in. Like hell, even Dropbox had this issue back in the day. Years ago, there was a big hoo-ha that on Dropbox you could copy the Dropbox cookie from someone's computer onto your computer and you would be signed into their Dropbox account, and thus you have full access to their Dropbox. That was a thing. So it was a long time ago, but that was a thing with Dropbox. And again, it was a case of how is that still possible in this day and age?
That reminds me of a time I very much broke a supplier's website by having an apostrophe in my password.
See, as soon as you can break a system by having a special character in the password, that means something has gone terribly wrong.
It was just like, okay, that's a problem.
Yeah. So, SQL is old news. We're in no SQL now. Yeah, it doesn't surprise me. I don't know what's
no SQL as in stop it, bad, no SQL, or is that actually a solution called no SQL?
I was going to say no SQL is actually a thing now, isn't it? Or is that a thing? I don't know. But PostgreSQL, I'm sure there's various SQL data stuff that's still being used. But
also, I maintain that anyone who says that SQL is not SQL but is in fact SQL possibly has a problem.
Yeah, I have always been against the pronunciation of SQL as SQL. However, I'm not qualified enough to hold a conversation about NoSQL and what databases to use and stuff like that. So yeah.
I mean, as far as I understand, for all databases, I must be using PowerPoint. That is what I have learned from dealing with clients over the years. My database must be stored in PowerPoint.
I learnt Microsoft Access in college.
Hey, at least Access is actually a database program.
Yeah, I learnt Microsoft Access and Visual Basic in order to make a program that pulled data from an Access database. That's what I learnt in college. And so when customers come in and they're just like, "So did you learn all this, or are you self-taught?" I'm just like, "I'm self-taught."
Uh,
Ugh. All right. DDB gang here, toot. Okay. Lots of people are now sort of saying terms in the chat that I don't know because I don't know these things. So yeah.
Yes. Words.
Yeah.
I know
However,
some of these words.
the world is essentially run on MySQL. I'm sure there's still lots of sections of the internet that are powered by SQL or similar databases, just because a lot of it is, like, I don't know what it runs on these days, but I know like, what's it called? Yeah, Facebook was still PHP for the longest time. Obviously, it kind of turned into its own flavor of PHP, but I'm fairly certain that, you know, they were running just standard PHP in a database for a very, very long time before they actually moved off of that. And so, yeah, there's still going to be an awful lot of the internet that is still just powered from these old technologies. But then also it's very difficult to keep up with these things because fads come and go. You know, like I remember when everyone was banging on about Ruby on Rails, whatever that is. Yet these days I'm fairly certain that that's not cool anymore.
I'm pretty sure Teltec would actually murder you if you said you were going to replace your website with one made in Ruby on Rails. Like, would actually find a way of getting down there.
I remember when Ruby on Rails, that was the shit, man. Everyone wanted to be Ruby on Rails.
I genuinely remember someone I know, they set up a company purely for making Ruby on Rails websites. And they then sold the company for enough money to become a commercial pilot.
Well then.
Have you still not sent Teltec the stuff he's asking you for?
No. Yeah, hang on a sec. Let me find out if I actually know it first, because that's the problem. That's the problem.
Let me see if I still have the passwords.
It's very, very likely that I have lost the passwords for the Adamant IT website. And
so in other words, it's unhackable.
Yeah. Or at the very least, I'm going to be saying to Teltec, if you want to rebuild my website, I'll give you the Amazon login for the ECS, but the first thing you're going to have to do is delete the ECS and remake it because I've forgotten the passwords for it. So, Teltec, do you want to rebuild my Amazon ECS? You're 90% through making a new tracking system for me. Huh. Fair enough. Right. Amazon.
I still get the feeling that almost the best way of getting stuff done is to annoy Teltec enough with the current way you're doing it until a magical solution appears in your inbox.
All right. So I've got some things. There is a secure note in my LastPass called Amazon AWS, and it has some credentials in it. So one of them is key equals in G Drive. So somewhere in my Google Drive there is a private key for the SSL. Are we still friends, Teltec? At least there is a private key. It does exist. I did actually set up keys.
Yeah. So I set someone up with a VPN via Algo on DigitalOcean and lost the private key whilst they were in China using the VPN. And I was just like,
Teltec, I'm getting transport down south. I'm bringing the knife. Can you also bring that 16 gig of RAM kit that you keep threatening to send me because I need it? You didn't have an option. You have to use keys. No, I don't. I can just use a password, and it can be easy. And I can make it the same password that I use for everything else. I don't do that. I don't do that. I don't do that. Even I have lines that I will not cross.
It's all stored in a PHP database. That's my password manager.
Yeah, that PHP database is it's stored in a plain text blob field, and I'm using MD5 with no salt for the passwords or something.
Oh, there will be lots of salt. Don't you worry.
Right. Amazon won't let you. Oh, fair enough. Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. Right, okay, we need a real topic instead of me just going, ha ha ha, my website is awful.
Do you need 16 gigs of RAM, though?
I'm not in dire need. However, I'm building systems at the moment. So anyone who's got RAM lying around, I'll take it off your hands. And at some point, I may give you money for it if I sell that system, basically.
Because I have a kit of 2400, which is basically of little use to me.
Yeah, I mean, by all means, give it to me, because I'll throw that in an Office box, because Office boxes don't need high-speed RAM. Yeah,
or an Intel box, because
yeah, exactly. I built I've got an i3 box sitting on the worktop that's waiting to be picked up, and that's got 2400 in it because it's an i3. Who cares? And it's not even a K SKU. It's a non-K i3. There's no point in putting anything other than 2400 or 2666 in it.
Yeah.
Does the i3 even support 2666, or does it cap out at 2400?
I think it caps out at 2400.
Yeah. There you go. Then.
It depends on which generation you've got, because it might be limited to 2133. That was the thing that completely blew my mind when I built a new Intel computer recently. Was the fact that the RAM speed was friggin' limited.
Yeah.
I couldn't go, I want to run my RAM at 4 gigahertz, even though it will crash instantly.
Imagine not just switching on XMP and running 1.4 volts into your RAM and dialing in 3600,
The fact that I couldn't, I had a 3600 kit, went enable XMP, and it went, XMP is enabled at 2400 because that's the maximum supported by this processor and platform.
10th gen is 2666 for i3s. Yeah, I think it's a 11100 I put in there.
Yeah. But it's just,
so it could go up to 2666. I'm pretty certain I just dumped some 2400 RAM I had lying around in there though. So, All right. But yes, that is a thing. But yes, as I say, if you've got old grotty RAM that you want to get shot of, then yeah, just lob it at me, and I'll throw it in an Office box at some point.
It's a machine that's presently using about 600 megs of RAM, and it has 32 gigs of it.
Okay. Fine. Fair enough.
So like, it doesn't need this much anymore.
Yeah. We use a lot of 10100Fs in local PC buildings, 70 quid on scan when not out of stock. Yeah, well, that's the thing. I put a 10100 non-F, whatever which one that one is, in this one because obviously I wouldn't need a graphics card because imagine being able to buy graphics cards. So, for this Office box, I was just like, yeah, we're sticking an i3 in there because then I don't need to worry about graphics.
That's something that really annoys me about Rocket Lake. It's the 11th gen.
Yeah.
It's a new core design. It's a new microarchitecture.
Yeah.
Right? Doesn't have XE graphics. It's got crappy GT3 graphics. And I'm like, 10th gen mobile had XE graphics. Why can't 11th gen desktop have XE graphics?
Yeah. Yeah.
Especially considering we're currently in the middle of a graphics supply shortage.
Yeah. Especially because
adding XE graphics would mean that general home PCs don't need dedicated graphics cards again. Even for all of the crazy funky video calling and stuff with
because that's the thing. Part of me is just like, oh well, it's if you need graphics in a desktop, you're going to put a graphics card in there. But on the flip side, one of the main reasons, like when I'm building gaming computers, I build AMD because AMD are faster. However, when I'm building Office boxes, even though I generally like AMD these days, I've always been, apart, except for a couple of circumstances, I've always built Intel i3 because you put one of those in there and the onboard graphics are all it will need. And it's one of those, like, it's a fit and forget CPU. So I don't see the point in putting nerfed graphics in there, because then you'll need to put a graphics card in there. And if you're putting a graphics card in there, it's just like, well, yeah, if you're saying, well, they're always going to be using a graphics card, so there's no point in putting good graphics on the chip, well then you may as well buy the F SKU that doesn't have graphics at all. So there seems to be 0 point in making a chip that has bad graphics on it. Although that much being said, I don't know how effective they actually are. I don't know if the GT3 graphics are any good.
They are worse than a 3200G is integrated graphics.
But then it's worth bearing in mind that, the 3200G is, like, we don't need these graphics to be gaming capable per se. It's just they need to be media graphics. Why not? Yeah,
when it exists, when you're already shipping products with gaming capable integrated graphics.
Yeah.
But in laptops, give it an extra 15 watts, stick it in a desktop and go, look, it's actually competent at esports gaming as opposed to simply,
no good.
As opposed to simply can launch the game at 4 FPS.
And of course, these are monolithic dies as well. So it's like you're manufacturing the chip anyway. Like if they're at least using, what's the option?
Chiplet.
Yeah, if they were using chiplet designs, then that would kind of be understandable. It's just like, all right, so, the graphics is on another chiplet, you're using existing wafers you've got kicking about. But if it's a monolithic design, it's like, well, you may as well build the better one into it then, I guess.
Yeah,
so,
exactly. It's like why the memory controller is better in the 47,000. The AMD's APU than the memory controller in like the 5950X. Because the 5950X has the same memory controller as 3000 series because it's chiplet one. But the 4000 series APUs are monolithic. So I had to build a new memory controller.
Yeah.
And it's just like, it's annoying, but at the same time, it makes sense because they were building a monolithic one that they built a better memory controller.
Yeah. Odd. And people talking about the 2400 and 3200s and so on. Yeah, I'd love to see I'd love to see a new APU at the moment as well, because like the 3200 and 3400 being Zen Plus, like, I don't feel like they're viable CPUs at the moment. They're not cheap enough to be, they're not cheap enough for you to buy them as a, who cares, it's 50 quid for the CPU. I don't care if it's Zen Plus. And buying a Zen Plus CPU today is a case of, oh, really? Like, come on, at least give us Zen 2, because it's now 2 generations behind, which is getting a bit ouchy.
Yeah, absolutely. It's also
plus at the moment, of course, with the graphics card shortage, an APU would actually be your best friend for a cheap entry level gaming PC right now. APUs should be the savior of cheap gaming PCs. But yeah, there's no modern APUs at the moment. AMD are just not making them, and I'm not sure why.
I'd imagine. Well,
I guess no one buys them. I mean, we've got APUs in the mobile space, but I guess no one cares about the APU on desktop.
Also, the case of why would you sell an APU for £50 or $50 when you could sell the same components that would be in that in a 5600X?
Yeah, that's true. For more money and more profit. Yeah.
Yeah, it's that kind of point. It's a case of you sell those cheap APUs when you are effectively in oversupply, when you have more manufacturing capacity than you have demand. So you're generating demand by creating new product, kind of thing.
Yeah, that is true. Yeah. And also, Liam in Wales just was also saying how the Intel iGPU is super handy for general stuff like video decoding. That is a really nice party piece of Intel CPUs as well. Is QuickSync. It works. It's very handy.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely.
Yep. And to my
AMD kind of
that's
went the other way and
yeah.
went Zen Plus, Zen 2 goes burr.
Yes. However, that's an interesting point of using, say, an i3 versus an APU,
Yeah.
because the i3 for media graphics may actually work out to be better because of the hardware
Yeah.
video decoding.
Yeah.
Can browsers leverage QuickSync for decoding like YouTube video and stuff like that?
Not actual QuickSync, no.
Yeah.
But if you're using the integrated graphics, you'll get hardware acceleration from
Oh
the
yeah.
iGPU
Yeah.
because it appears to be just a GPU to the browser.
Yeah. Yeah. So I mean, it's entirely possible that it's running that through the same silicon, but
Yeah.
the output product is identical. So
As
yeah, that's
far as I'm
interesting.
aware, QuickSync specifically relates to you using the iGPU when you have a dedicated GPU.
Yeah. Yeah.
So obviously you wouldn't use that acceleration feature of the CPU when you have a dedicated GPU that will do the same acceleration faster and better and bigger
Yeah. Yeah.
kind of thing. So you wouldn't need to have a quick sync for YouTube decoding kind of thing other than on a laptop.
Mm.
So it'd be like what was the NVIDIA one? Optiplex?
Pass. Can't
Something.
remember.
Their technology for switching between using the internal graphics of your processor and the actual NVIDIA
Oh, I
dedicated
don't know
graphics.
the name of that. I didn't know it had a
That
name. Oh,
that
actually,
thing,
of course it had a name, but yeah, I know what you're talking about. Yeah.
yeah, that thing makes sense in laptops because obviously using the integrated GPU on the processor
Mm.
is 2 watts, 3 watts. Using the dedicated GPU is 50.
Mm.
And when you're trying to make a battery last for 8 hours,
Makes a
that's a
massive difference.
massive, yeah. In a
Yeah.
desktop, no one will care.
Yeah. Liam in Wales just said how Ian Cuttress mentioned that APUs won't come for a long time because AMD is selling CPU and GPUs hand over fist. So
Yeah.
yeah, that tallies as well. It makes sense. So yeah, it's kind of a shame because some new APUs would be nice for the low end builder space. Like I know that for for people who are building gaming PCs and stuff like that, they're like, oh, who cares about that? Because like whenever people who want gaming computers tell me they're going to buy a 3400 and insert graphics card here, I'm like, if you're buying a graphics card, don't buy a 3400. Like
Yeah.
the only point of getting a 3400 is because you can't afford a graphics card and you're trying to go the ultra budget,
Yeah.
or you're building an office box.
Yeah, absolutely.
However,
Yeah, it's the reason we use 3400 Gs
Yeah.
for office boxes because
That's
they're
right.
office boxes.
Yeah. However, whenever a customer comes into my shop and they're saying, "Oh, we need a computer for home. We want a desktop computer for doing email, internet browsing, Facebook, etc., no gaming," suddenly, that's exactly when you want a shiny APU because then you can
Yeah.
give them a CPU that's not garbage with some graphics capability. So if some kid wants to play vanilla Minecraft, they can. So,
I
and
would,
obviously you always have the upgrade option of shoving a big ass graphics card in there later on down the
yeah.
line.
I'd
However,
love to see a tiny Navi in a processor, in a CPU. Just because that's then our DNA.
yeah,
And
I guess.
that suddenly jumps us 8 years newer on AMD's graphics processor side.
Yeah, possibly. I don't know much about the integrated GPU Vega architecture because
It's Vega, so it's ancient.
yeah, but that's the thing. It's kind
It's
of like,
freaking based on a 4850.
is it the same stuff?
Well, it's the same microarchitecture, yeah.
Yeah, that's just it. Because it's like for a very long time, certainly with some of the APUs. Although to be honest, now I'm drilling back into the A series CPUs. It was very
Yay.
unclear as to whether, because like some of AMD's APUs, like the A series, the point is that you didn't have a discrete GPU and a discrete CPU. The original APU was a complex of compute cores that could be CPU or graphics and dynamically switch between depending on requirement. And then APU just suddenly became a CPU with built-in graphics. And yeah, so I've always been a little bit uncertain on the terminology because what an APU is changed over time.
Yeah.
So yeah. Yeah, although Matthew Langdry just said APUs are sold in the PS5 and Series X. That would be very interesting if we just literally saw the very similar CPUs that are in the modern consoles if they actually made a desktop-ready version of those CPUs. Obviously, it wouldn't be the same CPU, but I'm talking about the same architecture, essentially. Because those CPUs are incredibly customized, so you wouldn't get, if they did release such a thing, you wouldn't be able to say, oh, this is the PS5 CPU. It's like, no, it's not. It's not. But something on the same architecture would be interesting because that would be your APU with RDNA in it. So that would be very interesting.
I imagine that's what we'll eventually see when AMD and so on get into oversupply.
Yeah. The APUs were actually kind of interesting. Like when the Xbox One first came out, when it was launched, I built a small form factor gaming PC that was based on the AMD A10, which at the time was their top dog APU. And I think it was a quad core, that particular one. And it had 4 compute cores that switched between being CPU or GPU. And they actually had a little desktop utility that could tell you, it showed the status of the cores and it showed you whether they were being a GPU or a CPU at any given time. So on the desktop, they were all sitting on CPU with like 1 GPU. Then if you started up a game, like two more of them switched over to GPU. And it was kind of interesting. And that that small form factor rig, I built that up and I built it for about £340. So the point was, it was cheaper than an Xbox One on release, and it had comparatively the same power. And that would run Skyrim on high settings at 1080p at a reasonable frame rate. So, however, the issue is that
part of the issue was the fact that they were Pile Driver and Steamroller cores.
Yeah, and the stock cooling that came with them was completely woefully inadequate. They kicked out a decent amount of heat, and the coolers that came with them were garbage. And I should have put aftermarket cooling on mine. Suffice to say, every now and then I still see an AMD APU. This is on the FM1 and FM2 socket. And every now and then I still see them. And if you see one, you can bet your bottom dollar that the thermal paste on it has been baked. So if you ever see an FM1 or FM2 computer in the wild, pull that CPU cooler off and replace the thermal paste, because I guarantee you it will be powder. Fun fact. So yeah. But yeah, they were kind of interesting. And I'd like to see something like that again, because yeah, it wasn't cutting edge, but it was interesting. It was viable gaming graphics on a CPU that was fairly cheap.
It would have been better if AMD had had a better CPU architecture.
Yeah.
At the time.
Yeah.
It was restricted by the fact that obviously all AMD had by that point for like 4 years was FX.
Yeah, exactly. But then on the other hand, clearly AMD decided that it wasn't worth it, because obviously the modern APUs like the 22, 24, 32 and 3400s are all CPUs with discrete GPUs instead. They've clearly moved away from that. So I'm guessing they know more about what makes a good CPU than I do. So yeah, it was an interesting technology though. I assume that they've decided that discrete GPUs, I assume they've discovered that iGPUs are more effective than these compute cores. But it was interesting. It was interesting. And yes, fans stock cooling was always bad on AMD systems. The stock cooler was always bad. The Wraith coolers are the first time that AMD has actually had usable stock cooling, which was one of the big selling points, and still maintains as one of the big selling points of AMD CPUs, is the fact that the box cooler is actually usable, which can effectively just straight away save you 20 or 30 pounds off your build cost, which doesn't sound like much, but when people come into my shop and they say, I want to build a gaming computer and I've got a budget of 500 quid, which is going to be approximately, $500 or $600, that's not a lot of money to work with. And saving 20 or 30 quid on the CPU cooling, that's the difference between you having to hike up that cost a bit further or being able to be like, cool, I can actually make 40 or 50 pound profit on this thing. I'll catch up on chat. Caradog is clearly reading something of interest.
I'm seeing if I can get an actual breakdown of how the A10s were built, because everything is indicating that it was a dedicated GPU inside it. It was just an integrated GPU in the same way as Intel's one was.
I've always seen conflicting information, because a lot of the information that I've read said that it had a DGPU, an integrated GPU, sorry. But then on the other hand, AMD's own utilities claimed that it had dynamically switching cores. So I've never actually been certain, because someone was lying, basically.
I'm sure the original AnandTech article will do a deep dive on it, which will somewhat explain it in enough detail to make sense.
I'm sure AnandTech know what they're talking about, and I don't mean that sarcastic. It's one of those things where if someone says my source is AnandTech, it's a case of fair enough. So yeah, I'm not going to argue with them. Yeah. An A8 could play GTA 5 on high settings at 50 FPS. Damn, bro.
I mean, that's roughly the rate. Wow. Yeah, because that's
probably needs an SSD to do that as well, because I seem to remember that GTA 5 does really like an SSD, because open world, you got to load that map up.
Because it doesn't need an SSD if it was developed by someone other than Rockstar. If it was developed by someone who would be bothered at making the loading multi-threaded and not a horrifically large JSON lookup table.
Yeah.
Oh, Rockstar.
Well, hey, at least they implemented a modder's solution to their horrendous multiplayer load times. I've never played GTA 5, by the way. However, I'm aware that multiplayer has a horrendous load time, and they finally sorted it out. No, I've missed the boat. Every time someone is just like, join us on GTA 5, I'm just like, no, I've missed the boat. And I've been saying that for literally 5 years. So
I only started playing it last year.
Yeah. I've missed the boat. It's too late. The moment I buy GTA 5, everyone will stop playing it. And I've said that for 5 years.
But yeah.
Let's see. Just a quick one that's just come up as well from Noel, just to catch up on chat as well. Interesting fixes in the shop. Not much, actually. Its shop has been slow. So just to answer that, just to catch up on that one is, I haven't had a lot of interesting stuff in recently. Right now, although I have got I tell you what, I'll go and get it just because it's a cool point of interest. This came in today. I knew it was coming in. The customer came in and was just like, would you be interested in doing this? And I'm just like, hell yeah, I'll give that a whirl. You guys are never going to guess what I've got here. Is
it fixing a rice cooker?
Better. It's a Roomba.
Is it actually a Roomba?
No, it's a Cordy. It's mirrored, but Coredy. But it's a robotic vacuum cleaner. It's a robo hoover. But yes, apparently the controller board on this is busted. And the customer came in and they were just like, I've spoken to the company and I've got a replacement motherboard for it. Can you fit it? And I'm just...
What?
Yeah, the company supplied, the Chinese company supplied the customer with a new motherboard.
No way.
Yeah, and she just needed someone to fit it. And I'm like, well, that's just an assembly job then. All I got to do is take it to bits and put the board in it. So
Oh my
sure, why
God.
not?
I thought you were saying you started doing component level repair on,
No.
a vacuum cleaner.
So we're fixing a Roomba this week.
Absolutely. So you need to mod the firmware so it swears every time it bumps into something, or just sounds like a drunk old man.
Or failing that, just have a voice command that you can just shout out to it now and then and just go, what have you got there? And it responds going, a knife! And then you're just like, no! Oh, I've got to put this back on the shelf as well. Either way, though, yeah. So if I haven't had any interest, I haven't had any interesting repairs in this week. However, that's one that's on the shelf. So make of that what you will. So that sucks. Hey, Lamau, got him. But yeah, I was very surprised when she said, "Oh yes, they have sent or sold. I don't know if money exchanged hands. Doesn't matter to me. She has obtained a replacement motherboard for it, which I think is pretty rad, because it hacks me off the number of companies that just don't supply parts for their stuff. Yeah, just something right to repair. But like
that was the thing I really liked about my Huawei Mate 10.
Yeah. They'll sell you all the parts, won't they?
Went onto the Huawei website and went, buy all the parts so I can build my own phone.
Yeah, I had, it really frustrated me that, like, this is the thing, is obviously made in X country is a hot topic, and there's a brand of budget laptop out there. I can't remember the name of them. We'll call them Lappy for the sake of the conversation. And this Lappy laptop came in, and it was a netbook. So we're talking like 64 gigs eMMC memory, and it had some liquid spill. I cleaned it up enough, and it was functional, but the battery was shot on it. And the laptop proudly said that it was a UK company. This brand was a UK company. And so it was like, oh, it's a British laptop, and I was like, all right. So I needed a battery for it. Now, obviously, they didn't make the laptop. It's a Chinese laptop because, of course, it is. However, I called them up. Yeah, I don't know, but I called them up and I said, look, I need a new battery for this. Can you guys supply a battery? And they were like, no, we can't get the batteries. I'm just like, no, you can't get one from China or anything like that. You can't point me in the direction of one. And they were just like, nope. And I'm like, so what's the point? What is the point of this? Of being, of you guys being a UK company and stuff? All you're doing is just rebranding and reselling this product, and it frustrated me. So yeah, as I say, this Roomba, them actually supplying spare parts for it, I'm like, that's awesome, man. It's not a Roomba. It's a, obviously Roomba is a brand, yada, yada, yada. It's a whatever that is, but, Anyway, that's that mini rant. Demny BS with the super chat for $14.20 specifically. Is that a reference?
I wonder what happened in 1420.
Yeah. Anyway, when's the next repair video? Thank you very much, Demny BS, by the way. When's the next repair video coming? I'm not sure. I'll level with you. I've got nothing lined up at the moment. There's severe danger that it'll be that stupid Hoover that's not a Hoover or a Roomba. It's a robo vacuum. So yeah, I will probably do that. I'll do something on Tuesday, and that'll be the next video, basically. I have been generally ahead of schedule, where I've had something lined up about half a week in advance. But yeah, I don't have anything in the works at the moment, because I've been working on shop infrastructure. But we'll see. So yeah, we'll be opening that up. So yeah, you're right there. Or you just
I can't see anything that happened on 1420 that's particularly relevant.
Okay, fair enough. Let's see. Did you see the YouTube video where they made an iPhone out of Chinese knockoff spares? Did it work? I haven't seen it. No, that would be interesting.
Oh,
You didn't want to spend 420, so you made it 1420. Fair enough. I appreciate you anyway, Demny. Let's see. Yeah, there won't be much about there won't be much in terms of repair on the Robo Cleaner, but I mean I'll probably take it to bits as much as I can and like make it. I might call it a teardown video where we just take it apart and look at what's inside, because obviously I've got to change the controller board in there. So hopefully I'll have to take as much of it apart as possible. So then I can at least be like, hey, let's see what's actually inside these things, and we've got to replace this board at the same time. So that's the objective there.
I thought of an April 1st video where you do a teardown on like an envelope. Or just on a piece of paper, you're literally tearing it down.
That's a bit too bad. Like the coffee machine video last year was a little bit weak, I thought.
You needed a stronger brew.
You're terrible, man. My objective for a good April Fool's video is that it's ironically actually quite good. That's like kind of like when I did the service on my car. It's a case of, yes, I'm not a mechanic, and there were lots of people who were just like, oh, you should have done this in the video. And it's like, yeah, absolutely, I'm not an expert. However, there were lots of people who were like, this is an April Fool's video, but I actually learned quite a lot. And I'm like, that's ops success for me, is to do an April Fool's video where I do something really completely off-brand, and ironically, people still end up learning something from it.
Yes, don't buy a second-hand JDM Subaru.
Maybe. Hey, that's just classic car ownership, man. That's just classic car ownership.
I wouldn't know. It's fine. Your car's just older than 50% of the people in chat.
That makes it cool, man. So yeah. Yeah, well, as I say, part of me really wants to do the solder along video as the April Fool's, but I don't know if I'm actually going to get organized on that in the space of the next couple of days. In fact, I've got to sort out something.
In the next 3 days.
Yeah. Oh, heck. Are we going to do that solder along? I think I'm going to have to do that. Like, we're going to do it anyway at some point because it's a really cool idea, but I think I should actually do that as the April Fool's. Get Finn in to do a repair. I don't know if he's in town. I need to, I don't know if Finn's about. That would be cool, but yeah, you need like 2 weeks to do the solder along. Well, it would be an announcement video. We need a month to do the solder along because we've got to give people time to order stuff from China. So,
yeah.
So yeah, April Fool's video, collab with Electroboom. It's funny you should say that. Not that I'm going to collab with Electroboom, but I do still want to do a multimeter crash course video. And I was thinking of sacrificing my my cheap meter, like my crap cheap meter, or I might sacrifice the VG. I was considering sacrificing a meter to demonstrate the lesson of don't leave your meter in current mode, and actually going right. Let's actually blow something up. I've never deliberately blown stuff up before. Let's do that.
So I ordered a soldering kit off of Amazon. And I was utterly unprepared for the fact that it expected me to solder capacitors of approximately this size. Yeah, hold on.
Great success. And now Caradog discovers the difficulties of making YouTube content. Oh, those are real small. Yeah, like there's no banana for scale there, but they look pretty small. That looks like 0608 or something.
This is my finger.
Oh god, yeah, that's really small. Yeah.
Yes.
What tip have you got on your soldering iron? Or what have you got actually? Have you got a TS100?
I have the TS-BC2. So that.
The BC2. Oh, that's the conical one, isn't it? Yeah. Yeah, that's capable of doing that. So you do actually have a soldering iron. Yes, yeah. Well, but that's the thing is that's why I say it's capable of doing that because the problem, like, if you said to me, oh yeah, I've got that and I'm using this the stock conical yeah the stock pointy tip that came on a terrible soldering iron or something like that, and I'd be like, give up. You do not have the right tip for that. Give up. However, you do actually have a tip that is capable of doing that size. You just need, yeah. Do you have some tweezers that can actually hold that size?
Nope.
Yeah, that's your problem. You need to get some crazy tweezers, man.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
But I bought it because I assumed it was going to be sensible size.
Yeah, well, I'm surprised. Well, some of these practice kits, they do have obnoxiously small stuff in them, and I'm just like, I think a lot of them are designed based on what's cheap to buy rather than what is actually good
Yeah.
for learning. And that's the problem.
I very much assumed it was going to be actually something that I could practice on
Yeah,
and learn with and not kind of be like,
yeah,
oh.
yeah.
But yes, I will be half a moment.
Okay, no problem. But yeah, that's one of the reasons why for the solder along video, I'm probably going to be recommending the heart thing because it's through hole and through hole is easy. Anyone can do through hole.
At least I didn't say, don't worry, I've got them.
Oh no, yes. Oh, that looks like it. That's one of. Whenever I see a soldering iron where you see like the point goes into it and then there's two screws holding it in place, kind of thing, I'm just like, nope, nope, nope. Those are the ones that melt down.
I doubt this one will because it was actually bought in the UK from a
Yeah.
UK supplier, so it's a case that
So was the
I
one
imagine
from.
it won't fail.
So what about if it was from Lidl or Aldi? Would that still count as a UK supplier?
That's dirty European stuff. That don't want them coming around here.
Brexit means Brexit.
Moving swiftly on before anyone thinks we're idiots.
Absolutely, absolutely. Let's see.
So anyway, fancies.
Dennis Kine, Graham, do you have any plans to get an actual microscope cam combo like Northridge Fix uses on his bench? Yeah, sort of. I'm not sure how. The problem is, really good microscopes are really expensive, and like to the tune of £600 or £800 for some. I'm not sure which one Northridge uses. I haven't looked, but like if we're talking about the kind of microscopes that Lewis Rossman uses, again like 600 to 800 kind of thing. However, I have been seeing in the Discord quite a few people have been looking at sort of cheap Chinese digital scopes where you have a single lens with a LCD screen that has a HDMI output on it. And a lot of them, they're very cheap and they look half decent. Like the pictures that people have been posting saying, oh, here's an actual picture of what this microscope is capturing. I'm just like, hey, that looks pretty good. Now, obviously, it's not going to be as good as a proper binocular microscope, but it's probably good enough for me. And so I'm thinking of going with that. And because you've immediately got that HDMI output, I can immediately plumb that into my video capture, which means I can get that in. Because the problem with getting the super pro setups like Lewis Rossman and maybe Northridge have is that they have a binocular microscope, but it's actually a trinocular because it's got a third port at the back which the camera goes on. And having trinocular optics with a decent camera is mega money. So yeah. The cheap Chinese ones, I'm actually tempted to pick up one of those and use that because that's enough to give something that is far in excess of what the Brio can currently do, but without actually me spending like £800 on something that I'm going to use maybe once a month. You know, I don't do a huge amount of board repair. That's one of the bits where I get a little bit sort of imposter syndrome is the wrong term, but a lot of people assume that I sort of do board repair all day, every day, like, you know, Northridge and people like that do. Not really. Board repair is a side thing that I do every now and then. It's not my daily bread and butter, not by a long shot. And yeah, Stephen just said you need a binocular if you've got no sense of depth of field. Absolutely, I agree. And so I'm aware that it will not be as good as a binocular because of the lack of depth of field. And I would be working on a screen kind of thing, which is not as good. But again, we're looking at something that is like, we're looking at something that's a fraction of the cost of a binocular or trinocular setup. A binocular setup is affordable, but then you don't have a camera on it, which means the audience can't see it. So if I was just if I wasn't running a YouTube channel, a half decent binocular microscope wouldn't be too bad. But the problem with me is I need a trinocular because I want a camera on it, and that means that the actual thing I need needs to be super expensive or very cheap. There's no middle ground.
The thing that impressed me was just how good the zoom in magnification was on the phone camera. It's just, the fact of how you could blow that up, that was very impressive to me.
Yeah, you can do a lot with that.
Yeah, because I was doing it last night with the bits and stuff, and I was just like, oh wow, that's actually really impressive.
Yeah, it is pretty decent. Like when you're messing around, like when you do your comedic entrance. Why don't you show the audience your comedic entrance? Here we go. Zoom. That's just flipping it. There we go. There we go. Hello, Caradog. So yeah, like that's pretty nuts that you can do that. And Caradog is using a cell phone as his webcam. So yeah, that's a thing that also exists. Florida man. Oh no. So yeah, anyway, you've got an Andon style microscope for examining SMD components. I don't know what the brand is that I was looking at. I can't remember. But as I say, I'm going to be checking in with the chaps in the Discord who have been recommending stuff. You don't need a trinocular. A £340 camera and a lens stand on eBay is awesome. That's what you use. Yeah. I mean, again, what is that? Is that a single lens approach? Because that will be fine. You just don't have depth of field, is the thing. That's the implication there. Kind of like how Big Clive uses a phone. Yeah. Yep. Sorry, carry on.
I feel like, in a way, for you, if you had a proper camera mounted to like the ceiling, mounted to a ceiling joist on like a meter arm,
yeah,
with like a 400mm lens on it, that would do crazy view stuff as well, just as a view for recording.
Yeah, that's definitely it's got potential. That the difficulty is the inability to move the camera. You have to move the subject matter instead of the camera, especially when zoomed in, and that could be very tricky in certain circumstances. But it would depend. Although it's again a lot easier now I've moved. I wouldn't be able to do that in the old shop, but that's possible in the new shop. I'm still entertaining those ideas, but again, I'm not convinced that the quality improvement is worth the cost and hassle of the setup, because the Brio still affords me a very cheap and incredibly versatile setup, whereas switching to a proper camera will be very expensive and be a lot less convenient for some improvement in quality. So, and again, more lighting has continually improved things with the way they are. Like, yeah, just again, it's tough to beat the Brio, man. Here's a RAM module, and we can go all the way in on that, and go all the way down. I can go right up close, down to there. So I'm now like 10mm away from the subject, and then I go focus. Whoop. And yeah, that's not as good as a microscope, but man, that's not bad for a webcam. That is not bad for a webcam, man. I still contend that. And that's the thing. There ain't no... There's... Caradog is competing. There is no camera that is going to compete with that. But then if I get a microscope, then the camera doesn't need to compete with that. So, you know, make of that what you will. So, yeah, it's not as good as a microscope and a camera, but it's still pretty darn good. Whoops, there we go. Sort that out. So that's the dilemma. That is the dilemma. Right. In any case, get a Tagano. The Tagano, that's what EEV blog has, and I'm not a fan of it personally. I don't think the Tagano looks that good considering how much it costs. I mean, I haven't looked at costs for a while, but at some point, I seem to remember that's like $700 or something like that. And yeah, I'm not convinced it's worth it. Like maybe the Mantis that EEV blog used to have, but I don't think the Mantis can do video capture, which is why he's got the Tagano. So yeah, I don't know. So yeah, and this is an interesting thing is Scytheshock just said, do everything as cheap as possible while keeping the production quality good. And this is kind of a point of interest for me, this is kind of the theme that I'm going for this channel is how good can I make it for as cheap as possible? Because like right now, I could probably afford to buy whatever I wanted within reason. So if someone said, this is the best microscope for what you're doing, it costs $1,000, I could be like, sure, I can afford to spend $1,000 on that. But that's what everyone else has got, and that's what everyone else is doing. I don't really want to be a channel that just does what everyone else is doing. You know, for me, it's a lot more interesting to buy and review and use equipment that the average person can afford. It's why I like cheap multimeters and cheap soldering irons, because I can use this and say, here's this cheap device I'm using. It's really good, and I'm using it to do real repairs, and you can afford this. Whereas, you know, other people, they'll do a review and say, oh, this is the best multimeter I've ever used, and it's $500. Most people are going to be like, well, I guess I'm never buying one of those. You know.
Why would you? Wow.
Fluke.
What?
You've never looked at how much a Fluke costs, I assume.
No, because I just got given one.
Flukes are very expensive. I really hope it's the basic bitch Fluke. If he's got a really fancy Fluke, I'm gonna be angry. It better be archaic or the basic one. What is it? What model is it?
The only difference is it's possibly older than I am.
Okay, it's an old one. That's fine. Neat. I can't read the model. Oh, Fluke 75. Oh, that's a legendary one, isn't it? Yeah, Fluke 75. Yeah, the Fluke 75. Yeah. That's yeah. I seem to remember that is a classic. But yeah, I think the modern equivalent of that is something like the Fluke 17B. But again, the most basic Fluke multimeters are 3 figures. The most basic ones. And like that's for something that all it has is like, you know, you got volts, resistance, diode mode, and if you're very lucky, it might have capacitance. However, the thing is, the reason why they cost that much is with a Fluke, it has got real input protection. It's got real fuses in it. So if you do something dumb, like you leave it in continuity mode and then go and measure the voltage of a main socket, it will explode gracefully instead of blowing up in your face and expunging you in a disintegration cloud. Whereas my Aneng AN8008, don't plug this into the mains. Don't use this for mains testing. Like, don't get me wrong, I like this multimeter. It's cheap and it works. Don't use it on high energy. Do not use this for mains use. It's an electronics thing. And yeah, so that's the thing. Don't get me wrong, flukes are worth every penny. However, they're very expensive. So yeah, that's the thing. So my point is, on my channel, I'm trying to use things that are offensive. Like, again, the soldering station, the quick 857DW Plus, I could have bought the 865 or whatever it is, the fancy one, which is double the price. I could have gotten that one. However, the 857DW is about £100, and for people who are looking to get into soldering and rework, £100 on a decent hot air station is actually affordable. That's something they can be like, I can afford £100. I would spend that. So that's the thing, is I'm trying to use equipment that the average person can afford that's also actually usable. So yeah. So that's the point, because otherwise, if I just go out and just say, hey, I've got 100,000 subscribers now, I'm going to go and buy all the expensive equipment, it doesn't work. And so that's the reason why, wherever I've put it, I bought for a thermal camera, there it is. I could have bought a really expensive FLIR thermal camera for like £300 and be like, oh yeah, I've got FLIR's flagship model. It's £500. I could technically afford that, but no one else can. So what's the point? Whereas if I do a review of the FLIR 1 and say this is usable for board repair and finding short circuits, people can be like, well, that's about £130 or about $150. That's something that I could afford to invest in for my repair business. So it's useful. That's the thing. So yeah, that's kind of what I'm gunning at here. The FLIR 1 Pro works in Windows. No idea. This FLIR 1, oh no, this is the FLIR 1 Pro, yeah. This plugs into your phone. It is a phone one. I will plug it in. So it's USB-C. You plug it into your phone thusly, and oh, turn it on. It's very slow to get going, this thing. It's one of my complaints about it. It's very slow to get going. It's turning on, and it has to do the calibration thing. All right. Let's see if it's going to start for me. Do-do-do. No, it's done its thing. This is my primary complaint of this thing so far. Like half the times I've plugged it in, it has not initialized properly. It's very frustrating. So I don't know if you guys are going to get a live demonstration. But the point is, you plug it into your phone, and it gives your phone the screen. You won't be able to emulate it on a PC because you can't do pass-through. You can't do pass-through on an emulator. That's the issue. And last time, as far as I know, anyway. So yeah, it's playing silly beggars with me. This will appear in the review, the fact that this one played silly beggars with me. I don't know if mine is busted or not, but yeah, for first impressions, we'll see. There we go. Now it's just opened up. So, there we go. Thermal camera. And that's what you get. So now I have a thermal camera of my face. There you go. So that's the idea of it. And so I can use, so this is useful because now what I can do with this is when I'm working on a board, so I would be doing a top-down view like this, and I'm working on, say, this laptop, and now I can be like, okay, so now we'll study what the thermal camera can see, and we can look around for the hotspot. And of course, there's no hotspots here because there's nothing there, but you know, if I put my hand there, and I can show what I'm looking at under the camera. So that's kind of handy. So whatever, it's just a photo booth effect. No, this one's the real deal. This one is the real deal. So yeah, I'll prove it to you. So hang on a minute. So here's a mat. So at the moment, it's not seeing anything on the mat because the mat is cold. So now, if I actually, where do I need to place my hand? There. So place my hand under it, and if I just press my hand into the table there, and then release, there you go. There's the hotspot from my hand. It's the real deal. It's a FLIR. Of course it's the real deal. So that's the thing. It ain't an effect. But yeah, however, this is the cheapest access into thermal cameras. So I'm interested to know if it's actually any good or not. Because I'm not sure that cheap thermal cameras are high resolution enough to be useful in repair, but people keep telling me they are. Every video where I've done power injection, people have been in the comments going, "Oh, you should get a thermal camera," and they say, "Oh, you should get a thermal camera. They're not expensive these days." And I'm just like, "Yeah, but are the cheap ones actually good enough?" So we'll see. We'll see. Puget Systems use thermal cams to check airflow in their cases. Yeah, that's stuff that you can do with them as well. So yeah. Yes, the cat phones have them as well. In terms of the cost, my one, they're about £200, I think. About £200. So yeah, they're not super cheap, but they're affordable, I think, you know. But
certainly if you've got a need for them.
Yeah, if you have a requirement for it, it's affordable. Yeah, I'm still not convinced that it's the best tool, but what I want to do is I want to do a video where I demonstrate the FLIR, and in the same video, I want to demonstrate the half a dozen other methods of finding short circuits, because other people say you can also use freeze spray, and I've got some poor man's freeze spray at the moment, and by that I mean a non-invertible air duster. I've also got, and the other one I want to do is the rosin flux method, where you waft a load of flux fumes over the board, so the flux settles on the board, and then when you inject power, the flux immediately burns off, and you get a puff of smoke straight out of where the short circuit is. I've seen videos of it being done. I'm like, that's a very interesting method. So there are, the thermal camera is by far and away the most expensive method of doing this. And so it's a question of, is it actually the best though? So yeah, I'll get it done at some point.
It's also time for thermal Pepe.
Thermal Pepe. Maybe. Have you seen the review on the MSI G76 Raider gaming laptop? I'm not super into gaming laptops, I'll level with you. But yeah, 17-inch, 300 hertz, 3 millisecond screen. I'm sure I assume it's got a 3080 or a 39. Well, I assume it's got a 3080 graphics card. $1,700. I'd rather have a desktop PC. I don't think gaming laptops are good value for money, because if anything breaks on it, it's probably a paperweight. And when it's starting to get a bit tired in 5 years, there's no upgrades you can do on it. I'd rather spend the money on a desktop PC. I don't like gaming laptops, to be honest. So yeah. My old-timer repair friend uses the Tone Own tool and finds shorts in 30 seconds. Yeah, that's one way of doing it. If you've got a really good multimeter that's really precise, you can just do triangulation with it. So yeah, that's also possible. Use case is important though. I agree, although I think it's a very niche use case where you need, most people will replace it within 5 years anyway. Man, I wish I could afford to spend, well, don't know. I was about to say I wish I could afford to spend 1,700 quid on my PC every 5 years, but I probably do. That's an interesting point. How much?
Yeah.
Yeah.
In your stupid RGB fans.
Shush. I have not spent a huge amount of money on RGB. I've spent some money on RGB. RGB is fine. Anyway. Current rush. Oh, okay. That's a slightly different method than Arnold G. Detecting current rush. Yeah, I'm not familiar with that one. Either way, you're going to need a fairly fancy meter for that one, I'd imagine. But yeah, Netzeroth, 100k, well done. Thank you very much, my dude. Appreciate it. But yeah, you spent $880 on a refurbished Dell G7 with a 2060 in it.
Yeah.
Not bad. Yep. Yep, I'd say that's pretty good, I guess. Yep. So yeah, we'll see. And would you ever buy a PS5? Not really. I have no interest in any current gen consoles because there are no games on them that I can't play on PC or somewhere else. I am of the opinion that consoles don't make sense if you have a gaming PC, or unless there are some exclusives that you really, really want to play. And so far, the only thing that has twisted my arm on that has been, well, no, I was going to say I have access to a Nintendo Switch, but it's not actually mine. So, yeah.
Would you, if you didn't have one, would you have gotten one?
I was pondering that in my mind. I think I would have by now. I think I would have bought a Switch by now if I didn't own one. Because I do like the Switch, mainly because unlike the other consoles, the Switch does have that advantage of optional portability. And I think there is value in that. It's one of those like rainy day things that you very, very rarely use, but I love having the option of it. So yeah. Right. Past that, we are 2 hours 25 in. I think we should wrap up before we go for another 3-hour stream. Also, I need to pee. Just saying. So, have we got anything else in the chat to cover? Otherwise, I think we're hitting an endpoint, aren't we?
We can certainly easily at this point.
Yeah. All right. So, yeah, I think we're going to wrap up for the day. One stream to another. Indeed. Although, you guys aren't starting for another hour or so, are you, Kimbo?
That's not what they mean.
Okay, yes. Oh, well. Anyway. Okay, we're out.
Don't worry.
I don't know what you're talking about, Caradog. Whatever. I don't know. We have stopped. We have ground to a halt. So, yes, not having a battle bucket. Dare I ask?
No, we are leaving. Goodbye.
Thank you for tuning in, everyone. Paul Daniels has a Linux FLIR 1 working. Oh, interesting. Okay, fair enough. Not something I'm going to bother with myself, but it's interesting all the same.
Plug it into your USB-C port.
Yeah, oh, I see what you're getting at. Yeah, that would be interesting. Yeah. Fair enough. Anyway, we're out of here. Thanks for tuning in, everyone. I want to say a big thank you to all of the support that we've had today. Thank you very much for all of the super chats. There's been a lot today. I greatly appreciate it. The 100K 1,000 subscriber special is coming soon, TM. It's going to be a couple of weeks, though, so please hold on for a little bit longer, but it's in the works. I will see you guys soon. In the meantime, we'll be back next week, and there'll be a video at some point during the week. Probably the stupid not Roomba. So thank you very much, everyone, and we'll see you guys next week. Yeah, toodle pips. Bye, everyone.
Bye.
Where's my mouse pointer? There it is. End stream. Bye.
Goodbye.
End.
I don't know how well